People can check me and fact check. I was working with the Notorious Big Camp, right? And I did a deal with Biggie's estate. Biggie was best friends with who? Jay Z, and he was signed to Diddy. And a lot of people say, "Oh, Biggie was about to leave Bad Boy." No, he wasn't. They're confusing that with Tupac. Biggie says in the song "Hypnotize," that was released a week before he died. Close like Starsky and Hutch. Me and Puff, close like Starsky and Hutch. Right? They were best friends.
Real life.
It ain't real life. Just say real life street stars. You know what time it is.
First and foremost, Jonathan, if you don't mind reintroducing yourself, giving a little bit about your background for those who may not know you, and then we'll get your take on all that.
Okay, yeah. So my name is Jonathan Hay. I'm a publicist. I've been doing this for 25 years at a pretty high level with a bunch of major clients and stuff like that. Throughout the years, people can Google it and see the stuff that I've done and that type of thing. But, I want to say something real quick when we jump off. I was just sitting here thinking about some of the people who are discrediting, because I've been speaking out for, just like for the last few months, and people have been trying to discredit me. And I see that they try to discredit Jaguar Wright. And the thing I want to say about that is, to start it off, is like, I challenge academics, who is a journalist. He's an investigative journalist, and he was rated the #1 media guy. And he likes to take deep dives into things, to take a deep dive into my relationship with Drake, since he likes to cover Drake, and looking to see that if I didn't do a deal with Drake and Future the Prince this year, 2024, I challenge academics to look and see, contact Future the Prince, contact Drake, and see if we didn't do a deal this year. And I say all that to say, because if I can touch Drake, pause, no Diddy, if I can touch Drake, if I can go that high to the biggest artist in the world, then there's no telling where I can go. And so my credibility should never be called into question, because I've done deals with Drake this year, and that's fact. And if anybody ever trying to discredit that, like an academics or anything, he can contact Drake direct, ask about me, and ask if we did not do a deal this year. Secondly, a lot of people have been hitting me about, how could Jaguar Wright know all these things, right? And how, Jaguar Wright hasn't worked with Jay Z since, when she did the Unplugged. That's a long time ago. Well, I can tell you, just from what I've experienced, is the people that have contacted me since I've done like your show, and since I've done other shows, people have contacted me, other victims, and have sent me. Obviously, there's been some people that have sent me stuff that, doesn't check out or whatever, but victims have contacted me, and they have sent me proof that can never be disputed, photos, everything else, because they don't want to bring their story out, but they like what we're doing. So they're whistleblowing, but they're doing quietly to protect their jobs, and to protect their families, and to protect, whatever. They're not comfortable speaking out. So if I've got all kinds of information in the last 2 months, just from doing, shows like you guys, I can't imagine all the stuff that Jaguar Wright has got, and to her, and the access that she's seen, and the people who have came to her. Like, she has such a bigger reach and such a bigger audience than me. It's and mine is getting to the point where it's overwhelming, of people reaching out who have suffered abuse from Diddy, from Jay Z, and from these celebrities. Sorry about that. I was just thinking about that right now. So
no, please. So if you don't mind letting us know, after you came on and did your interview with us, what has come your way as far as, let's just say, either backlash or just trying to discredit you, or like, what can you let us know kind of what?
There hasn't been any backlash as far as like, what Jaguar has experienced, right? And I was just watching Academics the other day, and he was being objective about her, but he was also saying like he didn't believe her. And when I'm saying to Academics is just what I told you, fact check me, right? Put your investigative journalist hat on and fact check me about Drake and I. Like I was saying, fact check me. And Jaguar has more information than I do. So to anybody who discredits her is really doesn't know what's going on, because she has more information than I could even dream of having, because I'm sure, without even speaking to her about this, that people have contacted her, given her information and stuff like that. The people who've reached out from even Jay Z's family to me is crazy, So it's just like most of the time, like, I don't even want to know this information, but I feel like I have to speak to them because I understand that they're hurting. So I know that hers has got to be times 1,000 of what I've dealt with.
Jonathan,
So go ahead.
did you see this getting out, like, before all this? Could you ever imagine that all this would come to play like it has?
Of course, for sure. Like I didn't think about as far as like, Diddy getting arrested. I kind of just gave up because he's been doing it for so long. You understand? So I just kind of felt like there would never be any kind of justice, and they were untouchable. So it's great to see, these pillars getting knocked down.
So with that being said, let's just go with the Jaguar Wright, Pierce Morgan conversation, where Jay Z, Beyonce, again, their lawyer reached out to have them to give an ultimatum for them to technically take down the accusations that were made by Jaguar Wright. When you saw that, because now this is on national TV, can you give us your take on how you received that whole takedown in itself?
I thought it was pretty lame, to be honest, because he was going off Jay Z and Beyonce's lawyer, just their words. That was it, and he took it down and edited the clip. He censored his uncensored show, which to me was just was crazy. Didn't go off any evidence. There was no proof sent to him, just simply going off the words. And then I saw the media run with that narrative, which I thought was extremely unprofessional and unfair, and discredit her and say, that he uncovered something that basically that she wasn't telling the truth and she apologized. No, that wasn't it at all. Right? He just got a call from a lawyer. So I thought it was real whack, in my opinion, for him to censor that.
Okay, and in the same week, you see Dame Dash does his own podcast on his own network, where he mentions Jaguar Wright, and he says, the things she's saying, most of it is true. Again, he said she may like put a little extra sauce on it, but from what he knows and from what he remembers, most of what she's saying is based in reality, based on a truth. What are your thoughts on that when, as far as Dame Dash comes forward? Because this is Jay's right man, and let us know your dealings with Dame Dash, if anything, back then, for him to go in and say, yes, what she's saying is based in a true environment, basically.
Correct. I've got mad respect for Dame Dash. I've never worked with Dame Dash, unfortunately. I've worked with Jay Z directly, but as far as Dame Dash, I've never worked with him, and I think it's amazing for him to come out and say that. And he could come out and say a whole lot more, because really he knows everything. Like Dame Dash knows when they were going on tour that Jay Z used to have transgender women on there. On the tour bus, he knows that. He knows that Jay Z used to prefer transgender women. So I don't know why. I wish Dame Dash would come out and say everything, but maybe in his own way, he's trying to, protect the hip hop culture, and knows how many people could be crushed if he came out and really spoke about Jay Z's secrets.
You've been in the industry for so long, for almost 3 decades now, probably just dabbling in it. When it comes to that specific thing, because we've seen where people are speaking on the woman that was in the Biggie Smalls one more chance video, or whichever video it was, the Big Papa video, I'm sorry. We see that had a lead as a transgender woman, and that story was making headlines. Was there or is there a fascination in the transgender world in hip hop when you were coming at, like, an unwritten rule or a myth that there's a thing for transgenders within the hip hop community? Because it seems to be almost like it was taboo back then, but these things are coming to light now.
I think with the transgender, the transgender women, I feel like it's more common in New York than it is anywhere else. Like, being in New York, you see them everywhere. She, her, right? You see it everywhere. Whereas down in the South, like where I was from, I've never really experienced that at all. So I don't know if that's part of it, but it seems like they set out to do that,
Did you personally see Jay Z with transgender women? You personally?
I have, correct.
Can you speak on, like, maybe in what aspect? Is it music video or outside of music videos?
It was during the tour. It was during the tour with the Mill, DMX, Jay Z.
The Hard Knock Life.
No.
Or maybe a different one.
Yeah, they had the documentary for it. What was that called? I'll think of it. I'll think of it here in a little bit.
Yeah, it was a documentary, backstage or
the backstage with the Mill and all that. I used to work with her, and I definitely. It was unmistakable. In 2024, the trans women are, it can be hard, like a lot of people that, they don't know, but back then it wasn't as advanced, and you could clearly tell, that was a guy.
Okay, with that being said, just to, stay within the world of Jay Z, everyone remembers Jay Z, of course, before Beyonce. Hip hop, climbing up the ranks, beef with Nas, of course, coming right after Biggie Smalls, Big L's death, and then, of course, Beyonce kind of cleaned up his image a little bit. It seems like a lot of these conversations are coming before or right at the cusp of him, of course, marrying Beyonce, revealing that they were married, and kind of changing his image a little bit. Do you feel is that contrast as far as almost night and day of what Jay Z is now versus back then before his marriage?
I really can't speak on how he is now, but I would say so just from, like, the general perception. I was talking to this TikToker the other day, and she was pretty shocked because I told her, that I was seeing some of the backlash that Jaguar was getting, and I saw that Ray J had said something, disrespecting her. And I told the TikToker, it went viral, like, on TikTok yesterday. I was like, well, listen, Ray J is just defending Beyonce and Jay Z because, Jay Z's a cuckold. And once again, I know that for 100% fact. 100% fact. Like I said, go back to academics. Academics likes to break stuff down, fact check me, and see if I did not work with Drake and get paid with Drake this year. And if I'm working with Drake, then I have access to everybody. So I know that Jay Z is a cuckold, right? He likes to watch Beyonce with other men. Ray J, from what I heard, even before all this happened, was one of the guys that used to smash Beyonce while Jay Z would watch. Diddy, as we know, is into those things. That's in the indictment. Cassie has not denied it, but they've came out and said, that Diddy used to like to watch Cassie. That's what he's into. Some men like to do that stuff. There's not a crime in that. But yes, Ray J, from what I was told, from being inside at the highest level, that Jay Z likes to watch Beyonce with different men, such as Ray J.
Let me ask you something, Jonathan. Have you ever been to any Diddy parties or anything like that?
No, I haven't.
Were you ever invited or anything like that?
I was invited during the pandemic.
Okay.
But what we know as a Diddy party now isn't the same. Like when I was asked to come to one of his parties, I had no idea that it was going to be like a freak off or anything else. And honestly, like I regret not going because I would have liked to seen how crazy it would have. Like, would he have been out front? Like, how did he move? Did he send everybody home? And when you're going home, blah, 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 blah. Like, that's when it was about to start off. But when I was working, this is another thing. People can check me and fact check. I was working with the Notorious Big Camp, right? And I did a deal with Biggie's estate. Biggie was best friends with who? Jay Z, and he was signed to Diddy. And a lot of people say, "Oh, Biggie was about to leave Bad Boy." No, he wasn't. They're confusing that with Tupac. Biggie says in the song "Hypnotize," that was released a week before he died. Close like Starsky and Hutch. Me and Puff, close like Starsky and Hutch. Right? They were best friends. So they were always together. So Jay Z being close to Biggie and Diddy. So when I'm working with the Biggie, So when I work with the Biggie estate and the Biggie camp, of course, they're close to Jay Z and Diddy. So when I was out there working with them, signed with them with CJ Wallace, Biggie's son, and we went viral on that type of stuff. I met like Willie Mack. I met like King Combs, Christian Combs, because they were all friends and they were all family. Diddy and CJ were super close. So of course, and we were doing a Biggie project. So of course I dealt with Puff. So of course I know what I'm talking about. Like once again, all this can be fact checked. Because I hear those stuff about like, Jaguar Wright is just, out here saying, a bunch of BS. And, I've heard that I've got it. It's like, no, you can fact check that. It's easy. It's easy to find. And ask the Notorious Big Estate if they didn't invite me to a Diddy party.
So can I ask you, when you see someone says like a Ray J, Jaguar Wright is crazy, if they bring up your name, oh, what he's talking about is just crazy. What do you say to those who just try to write that off as crazy because it sounds so, I guess you could say, unbelievable?
So prove it. So prove it that she's crazy. Prove it that she's not telling the truth. Because a lot of people are listening and paying attention to her.
Right. It seems as if they say someone needs to produce receipts. Sometimes it's hard to produce a receipt of something that you visually saw with your own eyes. You didn't take a picture, you didn't write it down. Someone just telling you what they recall from just seeing it or a phone call they got. We live in a world back then, there was no receipts back in the late 90s, early 2000s. It was before social media or like text messaging was very heavy. And you didn't keep the text messages back then. There was no cloud storage to where I could have a receipt from 20 years ago. It's just basically going off memory. Like I'm sure everything that you're saying is going off of your memory of what happened versus, oh, I went home and I took a picture or I wrote this down in an email and sent it to myself so I could bring it up 20 years later. What do you say to that as far as the time gap which these things occurred versus retelling your story now?
I mean, listen, I agree with what you're saying, but there's also the other side of it too is we also have to protect some of the people around us that don't want to be out there, that don't want to be known. Like, for example, there's a woman who, she has 4 kids and she's in New York and she's like going to like Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts and doing stuff for the kids. She doesn't want other parents to know about her past. And, you know, so when we say some things, we have to hold some stuff back to protect other people that were around that don't want to be associated by that. You understand what I'm saying? So I know that she has that as well.
That's very true. And I think some people forget that sometimes other people are affected by stories that are being told where they have children, and you know, you have to look into all of that and the ramifications of it.
Correct.
I want to go back to this. We'll call it a rumor for now. What you heard about Ray J, Beyonce, and Jay Z, and I'm just curious, Jonathan, when you hear information like that, when that comes to you, what are your thoughts? Is it normalized when you hear like cuckold situations and with celebrities? Is that normal when you hear that, or is that like, are you surprised when you hear information like that?
I'm surprised when it comes to, you know, Jay Z, especially because it's, you know, like Beyonce, but it's pretty normal. Surprisingly, it's an industry that's very dominated by sex and drugs, right? And it's out there, like nobody's hiding it. Like, so if people would be, you know, like shocked, if we're shocked, we're not really paying attention to the music and videos and images that we're listening to, because it's right in front of our face. Like, it's not hidden, right? Everybody's talking about it and everybody's acting that part. Well, then they could say, well, this is just art. Well, maybe, but I know, listen, I know from Jay Z, when he used to have his T-Mobile sidekick, and he'll go to like that little, do you remember those? I'm older than you guys, so I don't know if you remember the little sidekicks, the T-Mobile two-way, you know,
Yeah,
type things. Yeah. So, you know, I was with the girl, and he was asking about her, and then he was asking me stuff like, you know, would you be interested in, like, you know, somebody watching? He was just asking some really, really bugged out questions, and I still have those emails. I still have all that, you know. So, like, that's one of the things that I was going to include in the book. I'm just trying to figure out how I would do that. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is, you know. It just, I just get real frustrated about when I see these people talk about, okay, Jaguar wasn't there, and if she wasn't there, then she knows somebody who's came to her and talked to her, because I've been getting that so much, as I said.
Can I ask you in regards to even with what Sean Combs, what Diddy's going through, to see the lack of celebrities or people that technically were around at these parties, whether they were into, you know, some freak offs or not, is it surprising to see not many people speaking up? Like, what's your take on when you see other celebrities that you know were around him or called him a friend not speaking up at this time?
Well, I think, you know, that's to be expected, because, you know, that the industry, you know, they like you when you're hot. They don't mess with you when they're cold. So I'm not really surprised by nobody coming out and speaking out to his defense, because, you know, with all the victims that are coming forward, how could you really? Because the hip hop community, as you guys know, will come together for a cause. We'll come together to, you know, fight the power and to fight for what is right. But, you know, people are just seeing too much evidence, too many victims, too much stuff to really be like, okay, nothing happened here. You know,
Right.
there's just too much.
Well, did you ever run into Farnsworth Bentley while dealing with Diddy?
I never did. No, he was, like, I dealt with Diddy. Like, this is up until 2021 with the Notorious Big Estate.
Oh, okay.
So I think he was gone.
What do you say to people that would say, both you, Jaguar, others, let's say, like, you know, I don't want to speak on the victims right now, but just for you and Jaguar, what would you say for those that might say, hey, you have a vendetta to pick with either Jay Z, with either Diddy, or whoever it is? It seems like Jay Z is a target as of now. Now that Diddy is already arrested, is it a vendetta against Jay Z? If someone said if someone used those words and said they have a vendetta against him.
Well, for sure, it's a vendetta. It's a vendetta for to speak for the people who can't speak, for the victims who can't say anything, who are scared, who are living in fear, who have been traumatized. So I don't know if vendetta is the right word. I'm definitely angry about it, and I definitely am just not gonna not say anything. Like when I started speaking out, I didn't know it would turn into so much. And I didn't know that it would turn into so many people reaching out to me, offering support and encouragement and talking to their stories and sharing their pain and sharing their trauma. So now it's deeper than that, because now I feel responsibility and an accountability for all these people that have been wronged by these celebrities.
Jonathan, how were you treated when you were dealing with them? Diddy and Jay Z, how were you treated by them?
I was treated good. It was just, it's all fake love, right? Like Jay Z never paid. Diddy always did, and especially dealing with like the Notorious Big Estate and CJ Wallace, they never complained about that. Like Diddy was always seemed to be pretty generous with coming through on his word. Jay Z, from my dealings with him, he doesn't. He's like a slow payer type person, so, I don't really know. But now I know that they're upset, right? Because people are coming to speak out. And let's be honest, Jay Z and Beyonce, they're starting to fall off. And there's a chink in their armor. And people like us are just going forward because finally something penetrated through No Diddy that we are able to go after Jay and bring Jay down and have him face justice. Because we couldn't have done this a year ago. We couldn't have done this before they had Diddy in custody and before, the investigation started and everything else. It showed that they weren't above the law anymore. You know what I mean? So people have came together and people are rallying together. And yeah, there's several people talking, but that's amongst a whole bunch of people that are coming to us.
Can I ask you your thoughts on Jaguar Wright speaks on Piers Morgan? Vlad TV comes on right after her to call her a conspiracy theorist. You just spoke on academics, of course, fact checking. What would you say towards Vlad TV as far as speaking on Jaguar right after she got on Piers Morgan?
The same thing. Vlad would love to have Jaguar on his show, right? He would get more views than any interview that he's done all year. He's not stupid. So I don't know why that he would say that he would never allow Jaguar on his platform when Vlad has allowed killers on his platform. And Vlad has stirred up so many of these shootings, like in Jacksonville and in Chicago. Like he's not a good person at all. And like he's the reason why like white people are called culture vultures, because of people like him, right? Like he shouldn't even said anything, because he doesn't believe that. He would love to have Jaguar on Vlad TV because he would get more views than he has for any of these other lame interviews he's doing.
Yeah, I won't argue that. Can I ask you, if you were invited on Piers Morgan, would you accept the invitation?
Of course. I would go on Piers Morgan, and I would want to talk about why that he didn't allow, why he censored his I would want to know. I would want to talk to him and find out why he did that, just going strictly off the word, off no facts. Just off the word of the lawyer. That's what I would like to know. I'd love to go on his show. I would never go on Vlad TV show. I keep calling it Vlad TV. I never go on Vlad's show. And I think Joe Budden is, real whack too. I've dealt with Joe Budden from Slaughterhouse, right? Crooked Eye, King Crooked, Royce da 5'9", Joel Ortiz. You know, I dealt with Slaughterhouse, right? From the Crooked Eye side mainly. I worked with Crooked Eye for many years. And so I know Joe Budden. And for him to speak out against Jaguar and disrespect her is crazy too. Like, you know, he was defending Star from Star and Buck Wild. Like, and I was shocked. Like, as a man, I was embarrassed to hear Star call her the B word nonstop over and over again. Like, he could have got his point across without saying the B word over and over again. He could still correct her. He could still debate with her. But why disrespect a woman and call her the B word over and over and over again? And then Joe Budden to co-sign that and give that a pass and, you know, be like he agrees with Star. So it's like, okay, you agree with verbal abuse. That's what Joe Budden is saying. I agree with verbal abuse, which is surprising considering that I think Joe Budden is like the adult contemporary podcast. You know, it's just like the older, like at the end of the dial AM radio type, soft, easy
Right.
listening, whack. Sorry.
Yeah, no, Star, yeah, the conversation between Star and Jaguar, uh, disrespectful a lot of times as far as calling a woman out her name. And I understand some things do get sensationalized, but yeah, you're right. A conversation can be had without getting to that level. But I am curious, if you did have 3 to 5 minutes to speak on Pierce Morgan, where, as Jaguar did, he was trying to, of course, uncover the Diddy story, and then she revealed something bigger in regards to Jay Z and Beyonce, which, again, their lawyer reached out. Within 3 to 5 minutes, what would you have to say if Pierce Morgan brought you on to speak about the world of what's happening with Diddy, Puff Daddy?
Honestly, I would say that about Puff Daddy that I'm glad he's in. I'm glad he's in prison. I think that, you know, with Pierce Morgan, you have to look at realize that you're touching millions of people, and you're reaching law enforcement, especially in California, to take a look at CJ Wallace, Biggie's son, and Willie Mack, Biggie's son's boyfriend, his lover, his best friend, his business partner. Take a look at them, because I know how active they were in being involved with Diddy and Christian and the Combs kids and being around his property because they lived out in LA. So if I were on his show, I would try to get some kind of justice, you know, for that, because to really get law enforcement involved, it's kind of like when, you know, what they've done with Diddy and what they did with R. Kelly is you got to bring the media in, and you got to bring the people in to put more pressure on the detectives to go out and investigate, you know, such claims like that. Because I can tell you, Diddy, Biggie's son, CJ Wallace, Willie Mack, and all that relationship needs to be investigated.
Yeah, that's powerful words. Can I ask you, as far as we see a lot of civil cases being brought up, in Diddy, of course, and like you mentioned, R. Kelly, there was some criminal charges, of course, with trafficking and things of that nature. From your perspective of what you see and what you feel and what you hear is going on in the industry, what percentage of things happening is probably civil matters versus what you see might be criminal?
I think Biggie's son is criminal.
And why do you say that?
Just because he was telling me some of the stuff that he was doing for Diddy. That some of the stuff that he was doing, some of the party favors that he was getting. Right? I was there. I was in the circle. I heard about it, talking to me, you know, directly, like, you know, the ketamine and stuff. Well, you know, just look into the relationship of Biggie's son, which shouldn't be surprising. We're talking about Biggie and Puff. We're talking about Biggie's son and Puff Daddy. They should look more into that, because they were very, very, very close.
definitely understandable. And in your experience, can I ask you, Jonathan, as far as we look at things like ketamine and the GHB and things of that nature, um, from your time in the industry, being in studio sessions or working with clients as a publicist, how freely does the drug flow within the industry? Like, how easily accessible is it to just say, let's get our hands on any type of drug, like whatever whatever you need? Like, is it almost like party favors?
Yeah, but I think more from the studio experience, what I've been through is more like cannabis, more like weed, and like smoking a blunt, like that. That's how it is. What we grew up on is like going to the studio, smoke some bud and smoke some weed and stuff like that. But Diddy, he's real into dance music, and weed is like a downer. Puffy is into dance music and house music and Burning Man and Miami Music Week, and he's into the rave drugs, the uppers, the 2C, and ketamine is a tranquilizer. But if you do ketamine like at a rave show and just like microdose, it's like a totally different vibe. It's like a psychedelic. So he's into that scene, right? So I think the drugs that I experienced, like the parties, it was never really in the studio. It was what was taking place after the studio. Like I never saw anybody like, breaking out like a lot of coke or or ketamine or anything in the studio sessions, always rolling weed and stuff like that. It was afterwards when the partying would start.
And can I ask you, when you saw 120 people come forward with a lawsuit from a Texas law firm against Diddy, what are your thoughts when you see 120 people have joined forces where they have a hotline now where you could call if you've been affected by Diddy's situation? Like, what are your thoughts with that many people coming forward and a law firm taking that many cases to go forward?
I think they said that like last week or 2 weeks ago. I think there's probably another 124, 120 more, and I think it's just going to keep growing. I think it's thousands of people, like Jaguar said.
Do you feel any civil suits may be presented to Jay Z by any chance?
I do. I think he's already starting to experience it. It's just listen. It's hard to get things to stick. It's hard to get things. For a police officer to take it to his command, and then them take it to the prosecutor, and then the prosecutor take it to the grand jury, and then the grand jury to file charges. There's so many steps that have to take place, and it's hard to get something to that point. But I think with Diddy being locked up in Brooklyn, I think that he's, because police are talking to him about other things that they could possibly plea deal with. I mean, that's only natural. And that they would love to have some information on Jay Z, because everybody knows that Jay Z's corrupt. He's been corrupt for 30 years. He's been corrupt since he came into the business. And people say stuff too. Like, I noticed, like, I'm wearing like this pink thing. Everybody's like, he wears pink. He's gay. He's gay. It's like, yo, man, I wear pink like as a throwback to Cameron, right? Because Cameron is in Harlem, Washington Heights, Inwood. My girl, she's in Inwood. That's where she's from. But anyways, Cameron was one of the first people to speak out against Jay Z, right? When he was dissing him 20 years ago, talking about Jay Z being gay. Listen to his diss talking about Jay Z like a man, talking about Jay Z being shady. Like, everybody's known Jay Z's been wicked for years. And I know that he's freaking out because they've seen what's going on with Diddy. Absolutely, Jay Z's next.
We'll take a quick break. I don't know what's going on with Joker. Hold on.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there we go, Joe.
Now I was asking, do you feel like Jay Z should be saying something right now, not through his lawyers, not through a third party, but that Jay Z should be speaking, saying something, if anything?
Absolutely, he should be. I mean, why shouldn't he? There's a lot of people that's calling for him and asking questions. Why isn't he coming out and speaking? Why isn't Beyonce? Why aren't they speaking up for the victims even? Why they're not doing anything. They're just being quiet because they're waiting and they're scared. Jay Z and Beyonce are shook for sure. Once again, I know that they are so scared of an indictment coming down, a superseding indictment with Jay Z and Beyonce. Because if Beyonce and Jay Z, right, since Jay Z likes to watch his wife separately, alone, if Diddy's having a freak off and they're there, we've seen Jay Z with Diddy at all his parties. If, after everybody leaves and that's when the freak offish happened, why wouldn't Beyonce partake in other things? And, Jay Z and Diddy, doing their weird, freaky shit, jacking off in the corner, whatever they do.
Yeah,
Diddy's
no,
doing it. Diddy's doing it.
yeah, no. So to add on top of that, we just seen Kanye West get hit with a lawsuit by his ex-assistant for lacing a drink allegedly at a Diddy studio session, and some text messages were revealed in her lawsuit of Kanye West also liking to, do some freaky things. Let's just say,
Right.
yeah. What are your thoughts when these are the heads of hip hop? Is anyone safe? I mean, is everything coming out? Because these allegations, again, they come off as wild, but again, I'll never take away from a victim story, basically. So what are your thoughts when you see like that with Kanye?
Well, this is the old regime, right? A new one's kicking through the door. A new one's emerging because Diddy and Jay Z and Biggie, those three people, right? Two from Brooklyn and another from Harlem. They were running New York, and New York was like running hip hop, right? They were the East Coast. So Biggie, as we know, has been dead now for like 25 years, maybe like 27 years, right? And then you have Jay Z and you have Diddy, and they're all like clicked up. So when you knock out Diddy, and then you can knock out Jay Z, it's going to be a completely new industry. And it's been an industry that people like Cameron has wanted since back in the day, and Mace has wanted since back in the day, and cut out all this bullshit that that we've been dealing with in the industry. So I think it's just a new time, and I think it's going to be much more positive. I think it's going to be much more uplifting, and not so negative with all this with all this garbage that Jay Z and Diddy have been the ringleaders on.
No, definitely. And before we get at it, Jonathan, just again, you've been in the industry and you've seen it. I'm just curious, based on the trajectory of what's happening, just honestly, what do you feel is next? Are there other players that will get involved? What do you see coming next? Just seeing how this is going right now.
Jay Z indicted.
Wow.
I mean, there's no way that he can't. Right? Jay Z's business partners, two of them are in prison. Diddy, R. Kelly, and then you have Weinstein. 3. And then Jay Z's been accused of all these things. Jay Z's going down, and it's curious. I'm real curious to see what's going to happen with Beyonce in that situation.
Definitely. With that being said, Jonathan, again, you speaking your truth, man, it's powerful things, man. It's powerful things. Is there a message you'd like to get out there to either the media, the victims, to the victimizers? Is there any message that you would like to get out? Just as far as just to close it out?
Yeah, I mean, nobody has disproven Jaguar Wright. And people feel real threatened by her because she can communicate so well. She can speak better than anybody like I've ever heard. The way her inflections and her cadence and her speech, so she can really bring a point home. And I think that she's been one of the main components that have brought down Diddy. And now she's after Jay, who she's also been after. But I've joined forces with her, right? I'm a soldier for her cause. Like, I believe in it because I've seen the same things. And it's getting worse when I'm seeing. And like, the more that I go in and down this path, the more people that are coming to me sharing their stories and sharing their truths. And it's uglier than I thought, because I never spoke out about these kind of things because it was just normal. It was just normal for me. It was normal business. It's like, oh, you show up to a workplace, all these people are foul and corrupt, but then you clock out on your punch card and you go home and you don't have to deal with it. And then you go back in. But it is very traumatic. It is very toxic. And I'm glad to see it finally. I'm glad to see it finally changing. And like I said, I've said this several times. I'd love for academics to really fact check and look into me and all the people that I'm connected to, starting with Drake and then going down to Jay Z. And then people can see that what I'm saying is 100% the truth. And what Jaguar is saying is 100% the truth.
Jonathan, I have one more question before we get out of here.
Yes, sir.
Well, what have you alleged that Jay Z has done? Like, does the victims have that Jay Z has done to the victims? What are the victims saying?
The victims are saying that they've been through the same type of things with Diddy. That what they're saying about Diddy, they're saying about Jay Z. Numerous women, and I've dealt with a few that I've heard from, and I didn't know it was the truth. I didn't know what was, real or what wasn't. But just the people contacting me, telling me that they don't, that this one woman that like broke my heart, she contacted me on Instagram and she was talking about her story, and then we FaceTimed, and she was completely broken. Her husband didn't know. She made me swear that I would never tell anybody, but she just wanted to share this with me. She couldn't go to the police. She couldn't go to counseling. She couldn't do anything because she didn't want anybody to know. But she was telling me her experiences with Jay Z, and it was just crushing. It was chilling what she was telling me, right? And there's nothing that she can do because she doesn't want her husband to know. She doesn't want her children to know. She doesn't want her community to know, right? So, but she wanted to get it off her chest because it's trauma for her. It's eating at her. So that's the type of stuff that I've been dealing with and listening to.
Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna pick this back up, man. Just thank you.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, and we'll pick this back up, man. Oh, I appreciate the time.
Yeah, I appreciate it too. You guys are really really changing the culture, and you guys are really helping people get justice. So many people have contacted me about you guys. So, you guys are a blessing for sure.
Well, I appreciate you. All right, we'll talk to you
later.
later,
Brother.